Great. So I'm pleased to introduce our speakers for today. We have Mary Hams. She serves as the coordinator of the large-scale reforestation effort called Minnesota Million at the Nature Conservancy. Her work involves all aspects of reforestation, so tree and seed collection, growing seedlings, planting, and tending to the trees in the ground. And then we also have Shannon Meehan, who is a master's student at the University of Minnesota in Duluth. And she's been studying the relationships between fungus and native tree seedlings in an effort to understand how the restoration of soil communities can be incorporated into these reforestation projects. So I'm really excited to get started and learn more about this really interesting work and hear some questions from all of you as well. So I will now turn it over to Mary and Shannon to start their presentation.
Thank you so much, Shannon M.
I love having another Shannon on.
Yeah. Such a delight to speak to you all today. I'm going to first just ask if you all would do me the kindness, if you're able to turn on your video. I really appreciate seeing a few faces as I'm presenting. I spent about 8 years of my career as a volunteer manager myself and got really good at public speaking. And then I got to tell you, switching to online presentations is a totally different matter. And I always find seeing a few faces makes things a lot easier. So appreciate seeing a few of you this morning. Again, I'm Mary Hammis. I'm located down here in Minneapolis, right by Minnehaha Falls. And I'll be speaking to you about opportunities for large-scale reforestation statewide. So just kind of diving right into it, one of the most important points I want to make is that I'm here presenting to you today, but this isn't just my work or just Shannon's work, but the work of the many. We're really lucky to be working with a large coalition of folks doing this work, and I just want to honor all of their contributions by sharing a few pictures of their faces. Certainly not complete, but at least gives the idea. So here is our beautiful state, and I like to think of each of these darker blue areas as sun sort of shining through the canopy, representing an opportunity that we have to get more trees out on our landscapes. A few years ago, the Nature Conservancy, in collaboration with American Forests, did an analysis of reforestation opportunity areas. So that really means where are the spaces that were previously forested, are no longer forested, but could be feasibly reforested. Looking at things like where are the soils supportive of trees, where are there areas that are relatively easy to access? Certainly we needed to exclude highly developed areas, but we did find, even with all of those exclusions, that there are over 2 million acres of this opportunity, of this sun shining through the trees. And this is a really incredible moment where we can think about what do we want for the future of those lands, and how can we best serve critters and people through restoration of forests on those spaces. And just as a little side note, since I know everyone here is a water nerd and we all appreciate what high quality grasslands can do for water and habitat and such, our analysis did exclude high quality grasslands and prairie remnants, prairie restorations. We are in no way making a proposal to plant trees in those spaces. So having spent lots of time removing cottonwoods and red cedar from from prairie restorations, I know all too well what that looks like. But we still have some great opportunity here. A little bit more about what that might look like is pictured here. So about 1.2 million of those acres are marginal pasture. So often these are spaces with, a monoculture of grasses, and inserting trees into that landscape can be beneficial, not just for all the reasons that trees are good, but also for the health of those animals in those spaces. So this is a practice called silviculture, and that's something that we see an opportunity for on that acreage. Then we have almost 400,000 acres of urban open space. So what I have pictured here is just right out in front of the Science Museum of Minnesota in St. Paul. This is a series of trees that were planted that I helped to plant um, along the boulevard. So urban open spaces might be parks, schools, churches, and other locations in sort of natural spaces in cities where we can get trees out onto the landscape. Why do we want to get trees out onto the landscape? I probably don't have to talk to this group about the incredible benefits in terms of evapotranspiration and infiltration that trees have for water quality, slowing down water and helping it go into the ground rather than over land and off into our incredible water resources here in Minnesota. But we can do so much more with tree planting as well. We are aspiring to target the spaces that were most hardest hit by deforestation first, adding trees back into the landscape where trees were historically removed or neglected. We can promote tribal sovereignty by including species that have high cultural value or are food producing. With 1 million trees of that 2 million, we could be reducing the emissions equivalent of about 360,000 cars annually, as well as all the other incredible services that trees offer. So we're really excited about this opportunity. But there's a lot of work to do. In order to do large-scale reforestation, we're looking at how we can elevate each of these four buckets, for lack of a better word, or maybe you could think about them as stops on a supply chain. We're looking at tree seed collection, seedling production, so growing trees out in a nursery or greenhouse, planting trees, and then the ongoing care that it will take to ensure that trees are grown and not just planted. So all in all, as we think about elevating all of these practices, we have a goal of planting 1 million of that 2 million acres, and that is what we're calling Minnesota Million. So I'll keep talking here a little bit about each of these buckets and how we're working towards increasing capacity in those areas. We were really lucky to receive a grant from the USDA Climate Smart Partnership for Climate Smart Commodities program at the end of last year. And this is really going to kick off this year as a 5-year project where we'll be studying the survival and growth rates of trees from different seed sources. We'll be training and providing technical assistance to producers, providing opportunities to share resources and knowledge, some startup funding, and of course, connecting new growers to local markets. Pictured here is a group of conservation interns from Urban Roots, a great nonprofit located on the east side of St. Paul. And we've been working with their conservation interns to ensure that tree seed collection skills are getting to the future foresters of Minnesota, and we'd like to see more of those job skills training programs include seed literacy, if you like, in their programs. So a little bit more about seed collection. Like I said, we want to train new collectors of all ages and experience levels, and we need to balance getting enough seed with getting the right seed. So right now we're seeing seed stock just absolutely nowhere near what's needed to reach our reforestation goals or restoration goals. Folks can't source enough of the seed of the tree stock that they need. They can't get the species that they need, and all of that starts with seed. We've also talked to nurseries where their storage facilities where they have some seed, that seed is dwindling or it's nearing the end of its viability. So this is actually a bit of a crisis, and we're looking to train as many as 300 new tree seed collectors and from that create a group of 50 super collectors who we will count on and pay hourly to do tree seed collection annually for the next 5 years. So we estimate we'll hold about 12 workshops training folks in these skills, and then we'll be connecting seed collectors to each other and to collection sites with an app and database to kind of keep some more networking going and create a culture of information sharing. We'll also be incentivizing 15 existing and 25 newer emerging growers to start growing tree seedlings. Pictured here are thousands of yellow birch seedlings growing out in the nursery of one of our partner growers. And we want to see more of this. Even a small little greenhouse like this can grow 50,000 seedlings. And so this is an incredible opportunity both for promoting local businesses, but also for getting more tree stock available. And through this whole project, we're hoping to better track where are seeds coming from and where are they being planted. It's really rare that you go to purchase a tree seedling and you can find out exactly where its seed is from. Often it's, a large region, but if we're able to better track where seeds are coming from, we can better pinpoint that genetic background with the future climate condition of the planting location. So that's a big part of this as well. We'll be providing tree seedling producers access to training, shared equipment, mentorship opportunities, and we hope to connect these growers to local markets through soil and water conservation districts who host annual tree sales so that we can get seedlings to a local salesperson and not having to be flown all over the country or state. So right now we're also pursuing planting opportunities. Pictured here is another agroforestry practice. This is called alley cropping. So they've planted trees in between rows of conventional crops. There's a great program just getting underway called Expanding Agroforestry Production. And this is an opportunity to provide incentives for private landowners to plant agroforestry on their land. There's all kinds of benefits that go along with that I won't get into, but I can share a link after the presentation so you can learn more. We're really interested in ensuring that we have full ecosystem. We're considering the full ecosystem, not just the trees. So how can we pair those incentive programs to plant trees along with incentives to think about understory restoration and herbaceous plants? And then how are we caring for the people who are involved? In the US, about 85% of trees planted are planted by guest workers. So these are folks who are here from Central America, typically Guatemala or Honduras. They are in the US for 10 months out of the year, planting thousands of trees every day. They're incredible. As we move forward with planting, we want to ensure that these incredible people are supported, treated well, and compensated fairly. And so that's kind of another piece that goes along with planting. Somebody has to do it. And then finally, really critical that as we are planting trees that we have budgeted and have resources to care and tend to them. A lot of issues come up with ensuring that trees are protected from herbivory, protected from any wind, and cared for and checked on and monitored. And alongside this, we want to make sure we're getting the right tree to the right place. So that's kind of my story about how we're going to be elevating seed collection, seedling production, planting, and caring and tending for trees. Another way that we can ensure that our seedlings have great survival is by thinking about the full ecosystem, including the mycorrhiza that are supporting and extending trees' capacity to uptake water and nutrients. And so I have pictured here some fungus along with some other parts of a full forest ecosystem. You may, again, as water nerds, recognize the middle plant as skunk cabbage. This was my opportunity to brag that I found skunk cabbage on February 8th this year. It's the earliest I've ever seen it. So any skunk cabbage hunters out there, send me a chat. Let's talk about our places to see this cool plant. But at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my incredible colleague, Shannon. And Shannon, I'll just go ahead and stop sharing and you can start so that you can advance your own slides.
All right.
And she'll tell us more about her research.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. Bear with me for a minute. All right, is everyone seeing the slides again?
Looks good.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so thank you, Mary, for that great introduction to Minnesota Million. And just a reminder for folks, my name is Shannon Meehan. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a first-year master's student at the University of Minnesota, working with Dr. Julie Ederson on this project. And prior to joining Minnesota Million, I had spent about 10 years being actively involved in a lot of habitat restoration projects. And these two grouping of photos I thought were really great. One, because as you can probably tell, they're aquatic ecosystems, but two, they were also projects I was working on where I began to ask myself a question, like these are very intensive projects, and just starting to wonder how successful these projects would be into the future. So really starting to wonder if our restoration practices were or were not setting these ecosystems up to thrive in the future. So on the left, we have Lebanon Hills Regional Park. I was working on a stream bank restoration that it was a very small part of the park, but was at least a year-long project. And then on the right, if you're familiar with Thompson County Park in St. Paul, or just south of St. Paul, that was also a very extensive wetland rehabilitation project. And as I was putting plants in the ground for both of these projects, I just really started to wonder what these plant communities would be like in the future. That drew me to returning to school and hearing about the Minnesota Million Project, and everyone's work with that just felt really right to me. And it's with Minnesota Million that I came across this great graphic that has been really helpful for me to visualize just exactly what climates will likely look like within the next 45 years. And so these darker regions within Minnesota, those are what's considered like the current climate. The data is from the 1990s to early 2000s, so it's probably a little different than it already is right now. And then the lighter gray regions below Minnesota, those are what we're expected to experience in those areas by the 2060s. And so for folks who are maybe not able to see my screen, essentially we're seeing climates from Nebraska, South Dakota, Iowa, and Missouri shifting into Minnesota, and regions like northern Minnesota will be much more like southern Minnesota by 2060. And so when we're thinking about that, we're thinking about Minnesota Million and all these trees that we're going to plant, just kind of thinking about how do we keep up with this change and shift in climate. And that brings us to a term known as forest-assisted migration. And within this idea, there are three different definitions to assisted migration. Our first one is called assisted population migration. And with trees, what that can look like is you're taking seeds from different populations and you're moving them around within a relatively small area. So this species of tree is already very dominant in the area, but it's essentially facilitating their movement between neighborhoods. Or if you think about if we were to take acorns from St. Paul and plant them in Minneapolis or St. Louis Park, that would be assisted population migration. Red oak is found in all of those areas pretty easily, and you're just helping an acorn travel a greater distance than it could on its own. And then the next definition of forest-assisted migration is known as assisted range expansion. And this is where you're allowing those acorns to move a little bit further. So you're taking acorns from an area, moving them a greater distance, often to what's considered like the boundary of that species range. An example would be taking red oak acorns from Rochester or the Twin Cities of Minnesota and moving them to Duluth. This is kind of encouraging red oak to move further northward. Red oak is still found in Duluth in northern Minnesota. It just might not be as prevalent due to its historical climate ranges in the past. However, as the climate is shifting, you're allowing this species to expand its range, so to speak. And then the third idea behind forest-assisted migration is one known as assisted species migration. And this is where you're taking a species from its native area and you're moving it across a natural migration boundary. So an example of that boundary might be a really large mountain range. It might be an ocean. And you're taking those seeds, putting them in an area where that species isn't found at all naturally. And just want to clarify that this type of shift in species migration is not something that we're doing with Minnesota Million. We are focusing on being able to move our populations of native species kind of back into the climates that they have historically adapted to. And so when we're thinking about moving trees for Minnesota Million, then starts to beg the question of, if we move the trees, then how do we help them thrive? And this is where my research comes in. I'm very interested in soil communities, largely because of the importance soil plays, as I'm sure you know, for water quality, but then also the health of plants. And half of our plants are also living in the ground. It's not just above ground. And specifically within soil communities, I'm interested in mycorrhizal fungi. So you may be familiar with this term, but just in case you aren't, mycorrhizal fungi is a type of fungus that grows in relationship with plants. And this is a beneficial relationship between both organisms. So the plants get increased access to nutrients and water in the soil when they're growing with mycorrhizal fungi. And in compensation, the mycorrhizal fungi receive sugars from the plants that the plants produce while photosynthesizing. And when we think about mycorrhizal fungi, there are quite a few different types. Two very popular ones are ones I'll discuss briefly. So the first one is known arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. And essentially what this just means is that the fungus does grow in the soil, but when it grows in contact with roots, it's infecting those roots in a positive way. And in this image, you see these dark patches in root cells. All those darker patches are different fungal bodies growing inside the root cell, allowing the root to take up more nutrients that the fungus is able to access in the soil. And then another type of mycorrhizal fungi is ectomycorrhizal fungi. And as the name implies, it grows on the outside of the roots and root tips, and then also extends out into the soil. And it is ectomycorrhizal fungi that I'll be focusing on with my research. However, these types of fungi are found in association with a ton of different plants. Most of the plants on our planet do, in fact, need to associate with mycorrhizal fungi, which I think is pretty incredible. I'm focusing on ectomycorrhizal fungi because of the species I'm studying. They associate primarily with ectomycorrhizal fungi, and it's very common for most trees to associate with ectomycorrhizal fungi, whereas things more like grasses and flowers associate with arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi. That being said, that's a very broad generalization. So just wanted to give you background on why I'm focusing on just one type. And so with my research, I'm essentially trying to answer the question, will inoculating tree seedlings with mycorrhizal fungi improve the long-term success of reforestation projects? So we know we'll be planting trees, but is there something we can do to help these trees thrive as we move them to new locations? And another reminder, or a few more reminders of why mycorrhizal fungi is so important, and I'm so excited about it. One, it produces fruiting bodies, so mushrooms you see above ground and truffles that can be found below ground. Those are all food sources for wildlife, but they're not the only part of the fungus. So the whole fungal body is also this really intricate network below ground. And it just blows my mind that you can see mushrooms above ground and realize there's this whole other organism below ground. And when we're thinking about that network below ground, you can then interpolate that that network provides added structure to the soil, therefore preventing erosion and improving water quality. Mycorrhizal fungi can also increase carbon sequestration abilities by increasing plants' abilities to access nutrients in water, so making plants healthier and thereby able to support the plants in doing more photosynthesis. But then also, as the plants feed the mycorrhizal fungi with sugars from photosynthesis, that fungi is sequestering carbon in its own body, which I think is really awesome. And then on the right here, I have an image of a larch tree seedling that I just thought was really cool and wanted to share with you because it blew my mind when I first saw it. And here I've outlined in red the extent of the tree seedling's root system alone. So that little red line is all just the tree seedling. And then all those other white fibers around in the image are the mycorrhizal hyphae, the networks of the fungus growing from the root to the soil. And the little yellow arrows are just indicating patches of litter that the fungus is breaking down and allowing the tree to gain access to those nutrients. And so by improving the tree's ability to take up these nutrients, the mycorrhizal fungi helps create healthier trees, but then also just in direct association with the tree roots, mycorrhizal fungi can help prevent disease in plants simply by outcompeting pathogens that would otherwise want to grow on the roots and in the roots, which I think is really neat. And then this next set of images, again, I just thought was really exciting and wanted to share with both of you. So on the left, we have a pine seedling that's been growing in soil with mycorrhizal fungi for only 2 weeks. And you see all these dense cotton ball-like structures on that root system. That's all the mycorrhizal fungi growing on this root. And if you were to fast forward to 5 weeks, the root system of the tree doesn't grow very much in that short amount of time, but the mycorrhizal network becomes extremely more extensive. And so looking at images like that just really helps me visualize how much mycorrhizal fungi can hold soil in place and also extend the tree's ability to access more areas of nutrition and water. And so with that in mind, I'll share a little bit of information about a project that I'm getting started this year and will launch this summer. And the hope is that the outcome of my research will be able to give us a better toolkit for our seedlings we use in Minnesota Million in order to allow them to thrive long-term in their reforestation sites. And with that, I've selected 3 tree species that our trees we're collecting and planting for the Minnesota Million project. So on the left, I have eastern white pine. In the middle, I have yellow birch. And on the right, I have northern red oak. These are all species we expect to thrive as climate change continues to progress. And these seedlings in this image are about 5 weeks old. And I've taken pictures of their root systems as well, just because I thought those were a cool part of the plant we should consider. And so what I'm doing is I'm growing a little under 3,000 tree seedlings total, and I'll be planting them out at 6 different land use history sites in northern Minnesota. Half of them I will just be growing in sterile soil, so they're growing in sterile soil right now in the greenhouse. And the other half I will inoculate with mycorrhizal fungi 1 month before transplanting them out to the field. And so this slide just shows us the steps of how we would inoculate our tree seedlings. We have on the left here, Michaela Haynes, another fellow graduate student, collecting a soil sample from the mother tree, so the tree that we collected seeds from. We're collecting soil because it contains spores for mycorrhizal fungi that will then germinate and grow into its own fungal body. And then we're also collecting fine root tips off of the mother tree that have mycorrhizal fungi growing on them. And we only take about 2 cups of soil. That's all we need for our project. We'll mix that with water, run it through a blender, and create a little smoothie to give to our baby trees. And so on the right, you see Katie Kleider, who is one of our undergraduate students, inoculating some red oak acorns for a project Michaela was working on. And that's all the process is with inoculation right now. And this here is a map of the different study sites that I'm looking at. So I'm very much interested in, based on the history of a site, how does that influence the health of a tree and its ability to grow, and also its ability to recruit mycorrhizal fungi to its roots. So up at the top of the map, if you remember in 2021, we had the Greenwood Fire out near Isabella, Minnesota. I'll have trees planted out there. And then further south, much closer to Duluth, I have a field site at Boulder Lake Environmental Learning Center, where a logging operation went through in, I believe it was 2018. And then University of Minnesota Duluth has a farm site that was retired agriculture that I'll be planting 2 sets of trees out at. And then Hartley Park, Hartley Nature Area has a section of forest that was hit pretty hard by a windstorm in 2016. So I'll be looking at the effects of wind disturbance on fungal relationships with tree seedlings. And then the Magny-Snively Natural Area down at the bottom of this map is just a very healthy forest that will serve essentially as my control. So kind of like what an ideal forest would look like, and how do all these other sites that have a different history compare to the healthy forest. And on this next slide, these are just images of the direct planting sites that I'll be at. So you see the healthy forest at the top left of Magny-Snively. Below it is the clear cut, and you do see some pines in there. So Boulder Lake did plant red pine and white pine in this area after a clear cut. They're all the exact same age, and those are the only tree species in this area. So it's still a modified habitat. And then in the middle are the 2 different farm sites. At the top, we have an abandoned apple orchard, and below that is what used to be a gravel parking lot and is now just infested with a lot of tansy. And then on the right, you can see the wildfire area with a lot of understory growth coming up. And below that is the Hartley Natural Area with the windstorm. And I'll have those trees growing for 10 weeks at all those different sites. And then at the end of 10 weeks, after measuring how quickly they grew, how tall they grew, how many leaves they produced, this is what I get to look at under the microscope. So what I have in front of you here are some examples of white pine seedling roots. And those clumps of black and yellow or white, those are all ectomycorrhizal colonizations on the roots. And I'll just be going through and scoring like what percentage each tree seedling is infected by mycorrhizal fungi, and then compare that between the seedlings that were never inoculated to begin with. Did they just recruit wild mycorrhizal fungi from the soil? And then comparing it with the seedlings that we did provide mycorrhizal fungi 1 month prior to transplanting in the field, and see if there's a difference. And that difference, I'll hope, will answer these next sets of questions, which one being, did inoculation affect seedling success? So whether that's simply survival, if it's rate of growth, all those good things. And then thinking about, did land use history affect mycorrhizal relationships? So maybe I saw a difference in the clear-cut site, but I didn't see a difference in the more natural windstorm site. That's something that we could use to inform where we're planting our seedlings in the future. And then final questions, just did land history affect seedling success regardless of mycorrhizal relationships? And again, that would be, if we get an answer to that question, that can help guide how we move forward with Minnesota Million. And from there, that's all I have for now. So Mary, I can pass it back to you. Do you want me to stop sharing as well?
You can keep sharing. I think we just have a series of suggestions on the next slide, if you don't mind.
Right. Yeah.
So, of course, there's lots of opportunities for us to collaborate with water quality experts like yourselves. We'll be looking in the future for folks to help us monitor ripeness of seed. So, say you are someone who goes for a walk regularly in a certain wooded area, you might be a really critical piece of helping to identify, oh, I'm noticing all of the silver maple samaras are starting to turn brown. I'm going to mark that in this app, and that's going to trigger a notification to go to our collectors so that they can get out to that site or that region and take advantage of that moment. Monitoring ripeness is kind of this opportunistic thing that we just need as many hands on deck as possible to do. We're also looking for folks with tree seed collection and seedling growing skills to mentor other folks who are newer to those two practices. So let us know if you fall within that category. And then finally, we're looking for more opportunities to collect wild seeds. So if you have access to land or care for a body of land where we could collect seeds, please let us know. And then if you're just sort of generally interested, you can contact Shannon or I at CSSPN, Climate Smart Seedling Production Network, at tnc.org. And I think with that, that's all we have as far as our formal presentation, and we'd be really excited to answer any questions or have a bit more discussion about climate change and reforestation.
Great, you guys, this has really been really interesting. So yes, please, let's just kind of open this up. I'll read some stuff out of the chat that appears, but if you also want to unmute yourself and ask a question, please feel free. So let's see if there's anything in the chat.
And I threw in the chat, I mentioned the agroforestry project, and that's a statewide project. So if you're interested in incorporating trees into an agricultural system on your land or want to pass that on to someone else, check out the link in the chat. There's more info there. And I see Maxine asked about oaks being susceptible to disease. Yes, there is oak wilt. That is a real issue. And I think that's why it's really critical that we're including a broad diversity of species and genetic sources for the acorns we'll be collecting. Through that diversity, we can build the best chance of resilience against such diseases.
How late does that last?
Not very long.
Okay, then wait when it's finished.
Do you have a question?
I actually have several questions.
All right.
I just watched a seminar by Trout Unlimited, and they are suggesting or not planting trees near their rehabilitation of a stream bed. But then also they're saying how the trees keep the stream cool, which is going to be more and more necessary as climate change goes on. So can trees be planted farther away from the stream? Or, I mean, I think it might be a good opportunity on stream rehabilitation projects for planting trees for this project, but yet they don't want them real close to the stream bed itself.
I'm so curious to hear more about that, and I wonder if they're worried about adding additional leaf litter into the water body, or do you know why they're hoping to keep trees farther away from the stream?
I think leaf litter is probably secondary. The problem is getting woody material into the stream and causing problems there, or the tree falling into the stream, or simply the tree trunk causing currents in a flood situation, so the currents will erode the stream bed or the stream bank. So those, I think, are the concerns. I know Dustin Hoffman is, he's now in the DNR, I think, and he would be the person to ask, but I wasn't able to ask questions on that last seminar. So that would be something that might, I mean, because maybe in a stream rehabilitation project, which Trout Unlimited is doing a lot of, and so is the DNR, to be able to plant trees there, but we would have to work with, you know, the situation at hand, which is basically the trout stream itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it's a situation where there's some site-specific considerations, and can't claim I know a whole lot about it, but I think that we're seeing trees, the need for trees and reforestation opportunity in those riparian areas, and I think that's a really critical place to have them, especially because of their ability to help mitigate floods and high severity storms. And I'm getting some feedback. Shannon, am I sounding okay?
Yeah, you sound okay. It might
Okay.
be in the background of someone else, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
you're okay. Richard, did you have another question before we move on to
I have a
another
couple.
one?
You talked about moving trees from Rochester to Duluth. Now, I know from working with prairies that some people, especially in the DNR, get really upset about moving plant material more than like 50 miles or not even that far. They want local genotype. And now you're talking about basically just the opposite. Could you comment on that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So thinking about that is just one piece of our overall project. And I think that, to be really clear, the thing that we're thinking about is starting to include seed that was collected near Rochester or even just near the cities in and then growing those out as seedlings and then planting those amongst a larger mix of seedlings in the Duluth area. So just like you would want to create a mix of diverse species, we want to see a mix of diverse genetics, including some genetics from the next southern seed zone in these planting lists. And so I think, it's still a relatively conservative approach, and we're looking at species that have really low invasibility. There's still native plants in Minnesota. Their range extends throughout Minnesota, but we're just looking at adding in some more southern genetics to help increase adaptability. And Shannon, sorry, I don't mean to bogart the question portion. Do you have any other comment?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great question and something that we need to think about and talk with our collaborators. And I'd just like to say that my advisor, Dr. Julie Ederson, she's done quite a bit of research on just if we grow acorns for oaks that were collected near Duluth and planted in Duluth, and we grow oaks from acorns that were collected in the Twin Cities area and planted in Duluth, and then compare them, we're seeing that the trees that have a southern parentage, they're growing better and doing better with the climate shift than the seeds whose parents were always in the northern area. So that's really the reasoning and the push behind this. And yeah, then to just make those next steps, we enter into conversations and explain why we care so much about this project.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you. Okay, so I have another one here. Byron Carnes is wondering, what kind of seed collecting and planting can be done on state or federal forest? I now live just south of Ely and walk into these lands 3 to 7 miles a day and like the idea of tree seed collecting, but what kind of agreements does TNC have here with Minnesota and the USDA?
So, hi Byron, great to see your face and name. I got to work with Byron when I was a river person previously, which secrets out, I'll always be a river person. But yeah, so if you are collecting on state land, the best thing to do with that seed is to sell it to the DNR state nursery. We're partnering really readily with them, and I'll grab a link and drop it in the chat in just a minute. There's sort of this all boats shall rise philosophy going on, where we just need more seed to be collected, both for our project in particular, also for the DNR state nursery, also for the nurseries run by the Forest Service. So the Forest Service also hosts tree seed collection or seed buybacks sometimes, but I think it's a little bit more rare. I can look into some more information on that. But definitely the DNR would be a great opportunity, and just getting them more seed means that they can add it to their caches and means that they can engage in more collaboration, so that they're not kind of working from scarcity, if that makes any sense. I don't have all the specs of that greenhouse, but I can send them to you, Byron.
Another question someone asked is, how does buckthorn impact your efforts? I live near Tierney Woods in Bloomington, and buckthorn is taking over the understory, so I'm concerned that baby trees don't have a chance.
Yeah. So both Shannon and I are alums of Conservation Corps of Minnesota, and have Shannon, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn by saying that you've probably spent many hours cutting buckthorn.
That's an accurate statement.
I think that managing species like buckthorn, introduced species that are taking over, is a really critical part of reforestation, and thinking about the future of these spaces too, as we're seeing, open lands that are available for reforestation a lot of times. As the climate continues to change, any native species that are there are seeing increased competition with introduced species like that. So we don't, I guess I don't have like a real specific answer, except for just agreeing that it's a huge issue. And part of the reason that, as we're fundraising, as we're getting the message out about tree planting, we really need to be telling the full story of the cost of growing trees, not just planting them. And part of the cost is that ongoing maintenance to keep competition down, so that trees can grow to a size where they can provide really good benefits for communities. Shannon, do you want to talk about buckthorn?
Yeah, no, that was something I was thinking about too as I was beginning to plan my research project. Because if any of you have been to Hartley at all, there is a ton of buckthorn there as well. And so I was wondering, like the chemical composition of buckthorn can negatively impact a lot of different organisms. Like it's toxic to frogs, if that gets into their system. And so just wondering, like, oh, would that inhibit like mycorrhizal fungi to establish with the tree seedlings we want to grow? And I frankly just didn't have enough capacity for all the questions I want to ask to investigate all of those. But if anything, it just like gives me renewed inspiration to continue with the maintenance of reforestation projects, just ongoing. But yeah, a really great question.
Great. Another question is there an optimal distance you would move tree seedlings from their original range?
Yeah, and I'll say, like, we're mostly moving within range right now. But if you remember the map that Shannon had put up, and I imagine we can share our slide deck with you, Shannon, to disseminate to the group. There's that map of the like dark gray areas and the white areas. We're essentially seeing things shifting from the, oh my gosh, Shannon, thank you, from the southwest to the northeast, roughly. And so that's some of the kind of like facilitated change that we're looking at. If you want an actual distance, gosh, I don't know, 200 miles-ish roughly is a good rule of thumb, but it does depend on the region a bit and the species. I'm seeing some other questions. Oh, Byron has a special question just for Shannon. He's encouraging you to get a second master's degree. He says, I understand what is at issues with species movement, but specimens to judge hardiness, perhaps another master's?
Yeah, I think I'll be content with just one master's degree, but that doesn't mean research needs to stop there by any means. I guess for specimens to judge hardiness, is that thinking about like what species are most hardy in the different ecosystems?
Byron, you're on mute, but we'd love to hear what you're adding in.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm thinking more about species that may be generally found in Iowa or Missouri and bring them up someplace to, I mean, I know that there's got to be lots of research on that, but is there any way of incorporating at least a touch of that kind of stuff into what you are doing, maybe if it's just in the greenhouse?
Yeah, we're exploring collections from TNC preserves in Iowa and Nebraska to look at their hardiness on a limited basis through experiments like Shannon's. And that'll be a part of the Climate Smart Seedling Production Network over the next 5 years. And, you know, in particular, like in southern Minnesota, that's kind of like, you know, seeds don't really know state boundaries. So for southern Minnesota planting areas, we're going to need to look in a few other states.
I don't know if you heard, NPR had a story this morning about emerald ash borer, and they
Yes, I did.
Rob Vanette, and but they were talking generally about swapping out what could be the loss of ash, black ash,
Yeah.
incorporating
Swamp white oak.
And just knowing how well that's going to do right now. If we're going to start planting these things, you don't want to wait until all the ash are gone, right? You want to start doing it now.
Yeah, the black ash stands of northern Minnesota and their future keep me up at night. I'm deeply worried about them, and I'm not alone. The logistics of planting in those places are Herculean.
Yeah.
And I'm someone who's planted in floodplains before. I do think that the efforts to do experimental underplantings in those areas are hopefully going to be turning into more implementation efforts soon. And you know, I think that addressing the loss of canopy in those spaces is certainly a part of large-scale reforestation, even though those areas are technically treed or forested right now.
Okay, thank you.
I will just add quick to that, that there is a professor at UMD. Her name is Alexis Grindy. She studies primarily birds and wildlife, but a lot of her birds nest in the black ash swamps. And so she is working on a project of, okay, if we're planting swamp white oak and a few other species, will that be able to sustain habitat for these birds as well? So there is action happening, but probably just slower than we would like.
So then follow up on that, someone else had asked, any thoughts on tree species to replace black spruce and tamarack in northern bogs? They should start doing the poorly with the, they would start doing poorly with the changing climate as well.
Boy, Shannon, I would assume swamp white oak would be a good option for those too, but I'm not sure. Bogs are such a specific thing. I don't know that I feel certain about swamp white oak's ability to handle those conditions. Do you have any ideas?
I don't have, yeah, swamp white oak is what came to my mind first. But obviously we would want more than one species. So something we are thinking about, and very much appreciate the consideration. And if anyone has suggestions here, would love to hear them too.
Mary, I'm not sure if you may have answered this question in the chat about checking with the regional DNR office on what species that they're looking for in terms of seeds, but someone had asked, are there certain types of tree seeds that you are extra interested in having but are hard to find? So do you guys have anything too that you're like, oh, if we could get our hands on this, that'd be great.
Yes, I love this question. Thank you for bringing my attention back to it. I am really interested in fruiting and flowering shrubs in southern Minnesota that have grown in place from seed. Red twig dogwood, viburnum, buttonbush, all of them. That is a huge gap in our state's seedling production offerings, and those species are so wanted by private landowners for habitat, and such a great kind of like they're just a perfect aligning of planets and interests and needs. So I am definitely seeking those.
Right. Looks like we have some
Someone commented.
suggestions for trees to go in the bogs of Missouri bald cypress or elderberry.
Yeah,
Love
thank you.
that. Yeah, elderberry yeah, that's great. And bald cypress, you know, its current native range goes as far as northern Illinois. So I certainly a plant that's of great interest to us here in Minnesota.
We probably have time for one more question. Does anybody have anything to ask? Anything on their mind? I was just sort of wondering if you knew the success rate now of the trees that you planted, since you were kind of the fungus connection and wanting to sort of increase the success rate or the long-term success of those species. Do you know currently, like, of all the seedlings you're planted, how many make it to, you know, I don't know, adulthood of a tree, or how you judge that?
Shannon, I have an answer for our like forest team in northeastern Minnesota, which is roughly 60%, I think. But those are trees where there's funding to go back and do some, you know, vegetation management to keep competition down. So that's not always the case with planting areas. Thank you all for being water quality monitors.
Yeah, and something to put out there too. I mean, we've got so many volunteers all across the state. So if you ever have like we've got a project here and we'd love some engagement from volunteers to either check on how seedlings are doing or collect seeds or what have you, we can always send out email blasts to like specific parts of the state to our volunteers and say, hey, here's an opportunity to engage. So keep us in the loop if you're looking for people to help with your project, for sure.
That's awesome, Shannon. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have some opportunities coming up for this awesome group.
Well, thank you again. This was a really interesting presentation. We really appreciate you guys speaking to our group today. And just for everybody out there, we will send out a recording to this hopefully in the next couple days or so. But thank you again to Mary and Shannon.
Thanks, y'all.
Everyone.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.